I made $173,000 selling on Amazon. The first step in creating my business was research. So I used the program Viral Launch for that. It cost me about $200 over the course of a few months. Next, I spent about $2,000 with a professional design team to make my logo and the packaging and all of the branding. My trademark cost another $400, and then there was a $20 fee for the barcodes, and then I paid Amazon $39.99 for their monthly selling subscription fees. Next, I found my manufacturer. So our first samples cost $360. And then after that, our first round of supplements cost about $8,000 and another $500 for shipping those. There was also a few more fees before I was able to start my business. In this video, I'm going to tell you step by step how I was able to start my business and start selling on Amazon. And also, I'm going to tell you about the top 3 mistakes I made, because one of them cost me over $10,000. First, I'm going to share with you my honest numbers on what it cost me to start my business. I'm also going to share how much money I made on Amazon and what my product is, which is something I guess most sellers don't do. Even though I've sold over $173,000 on Amazon, that's not the profit. That's the total amount of product I've sold. I'll be sharing all my costs and all the FBA fees and everything you need to know before you start selling on Amazon about what the real costs are. I'm also going to share with you exactly what I did, because even though I made a big mistake, I was still able to sell about $40,000 our first year on Amazon. And the third most important part of the video is right at the end. I'm going to share with you a mistake I made that cost me $100,000. So if you're considering selling on Amazon, stay till the end of the video and avoid making this mistake yourself. Now let me share with you step by step how I created this business and how much it cost me to start this business. My name's Sydney. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, which was really cool, but I wanted to do something different. I actually went to school for journalism and reporting because I wanted to be a travel reporter and I wanted the freedom to travel and tell stories. That dream ended up getting crushed because the job I wanted didn't hire Americans. I'd been traveling for a while and I kept seeing people getting sick over and over. Not anything huge, just like little preventable illnesses. Also, at the same time, I happened to stumble upon this guy Travis's YouTube channel, and I was watching it and feeling inspired to start something on Amazon. And eventually all the pieces kind of clicked together. Growing up in a family of entrepreneurs, it was just kind of obvious to me, something I didn't have to think about, that if I fixed a problem for people, I would make money from it and I would be able to travel and live my life of freedom and do whatever I wanted. So I decided to go for it. I did a bunch of research and I found 20 different plants, vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that could help people manage their stress and manage other travel-related issues that can arise in people. And I decided that if I blended them all together, hired a pharmacist, did all of that, we could create kind of like a super supplement that could help everyone stay balanced while they were traveling. It also helped me not to miss another adventure because I knew that I had created this super cool product that would help people and that would therefore fund my life because people would want it because it's awesome. And then Copilot was born. This is Copilot, the travel brand. This is my supplement company. There's about 2 supplements left in this tin because we take them every day. And make sure to smash that like button for me, Travis, and Copilot, because I'm gonna share with you all the step-by-step of how we got here and how I created this super cool product. The first step was finding my product and making sure it was something that people would want. So I spent about $200 on Viral Launch, and then within a few hours, we had created the name, the tagline, what it was gonna do. We didn't have the ingredients yet, obviously, but we just kind of like created a whole business off of this one thing that we saw on Viral Launch. And I knew that if I could actually formulate this well and make it perfect, then it could really help people. Because when I searched it, supplements for travelers, nothing came up. As an investigative journalist and someone that was pretty active on Instagram at the time, I started doing a ton of research, finding out the perfect ingredients, taking quizzes and polls on Instagram in different ways, and figuring out what exactly people would want a travel supplement to do, and then what exactly could make those benefits in the best way. So back to my product, the next cost was I paid $940 for different 3D renders and different labeling and product design ideas before I used my legitimate company that I ended up using for all of the branding. I went on Fiverr and I just kind of got a bunch of different ideas from different Fiverr people just to see what they kind of sent back. I sent them my ideas, we exchanged. I didn't really need to, I guess, in the end, but it was a good stone to get here. I ended up designing the packaging, which is this first ever reusable tin container. With my family, we were all sat around a table near Christmas and we were just like shooting off different ideas of materials and shapes and all of this stuff. And then me and my nephew created little boxes of different shapes and ways it could open. And we wanted to make it compact, able to be right at the front of your backpack or bag, no wasted space. So all of the space is filled with the supplements. and environmentally friendly, because that was one of my biggest things. Then I hired a pharmacist, freelancers, and some people that could help me bring my ideas to life. Then I ended up finding that awesome branding agency that helped me create all the final design and helped me design a bandana, because I wanted to wrap my tins in a bandana instead of a wasteful box that was beautiful but we just throw away. And I paid them $2,000. They designed everything for me, and then we sent all of that to the different manufacturers. The $2,000 or $3,000 that I ended up spending in all to design the packaging was definitely more than I thought that I would spend on packaging, but luckily, now I know, I wish I knew then, Travis also has some videos on his YouTube explaining how you can do that in a more cost-effective way. Travis also has an in-depth tutorial about this on his FBA course, which is called the Passion Product Formula, and that's also linked in the description below if you want to figure out how to do this a little bit more cost-effective. The next thing I did was I wanted to take professional photos of my product. Luckily, I have a lot of friends that were photographers, and I was learning photography at the time, so I had a friend come and help me. We created a whole stage lighting, and he just helped me for free, and we took all the photos ourselves. And then I took some more in my spare time, and we went out and did some like fun photo shoots in naturey places. Even though I do most of the creative work myself, I have found companies that my friends use or other people use that make all of this a little bit more easy. They do all the hard work, like creating the branding, creating the logos. They can even create your listing, everything. The company that a lot of people use is FBA Creatives, and yeah, I think they just kind of take all the hard work out of it for you, which might have been helpful for me because I ended up using like a ton of different people and trying to mash them all together. And there's also a link for them down below. I then spent about $500 to get my LLC. I did most of the paperwork and everything myself, but then there was just some fees and stuff. An LLC will cost you about $200 from different agencies. If you don't want to do all the paperwork yourself, there are some agencies like Y Registered Agent that will do the paperwork for you, and I think it costs about $200. One of the benefits to using an LLC is it creates a separation between you and your company in case anything ever happens or you ever get sued. It just kind of makes it like you are not your company, you are part of your company. Also, if you want to use a service to get your DBA or you're doing business as, which is just another name for your company, I think LegalZoom does it for about $99. Again, I did this one myself. My next cost was $400, and that was for a trademark, and I did it myself through the USPTO website. That was a lot of work, and if you have a little bit of extra money, that might be a good place to use it. The next biggest expense was $4,500, and that was for liability insurance, because Copilot is something that people consume, so you always want to be protected, you always want to be extra safe. Also, if anything happens to the factory where Copilot's produced, then I'm covered. This isn't something that everybody needs, but it's something that I felt strongly about having. My next cost was about $8,000, and that was for 5,000 tins and 1,000 orders of the actual supplements for my first run of my product. Luckily, I had no time pressure, so I took my time to do research and ordering everything and making sure that everything was sustainable. I created a pretty long spreadsheet with exactly my requirements for a manufacturer and everything I wanted. And some of the easy ones were that I wanted it to all be like environmentally sustainable. I wanted to work with women. I wanted the highest grade ingredients. And I had like a huge checklist of things that I wanted to make sure when I was creating this company. I wanted everything to the highest standards. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but again, I didn't really have a time pressure. So I called, I think, like 100 different places to get quotes to see how many of the check marks they filled out. And then there was one place where a woman answered the phone and she was able to check off all of so many things on my list. She checked off every single one. And I was like, wow, this is my place. Also, my product was pretty unique. It's the first supplement ever packaged in a tin container like this. And she was the only one that would allow me to do that. I spent $300 on the first samples of the product, but that was later taken off of the total cost of the first run of products. And I also paid $60 for the samples of the tins, but I ordered from a few places to see how they looked, so I'm not sure I got the money back for those. Finally, everything was agreed upon. I got the tins from overseas and I shipped them to my manufacturer in Georgia in the US. There in Georgia, they created all of the supplements, packaged them all, and then they send them to my fulfillment center, which is in South Carolina. And then my fulfillment center takes them, adds the labels, and sends them to different Amazon warehouses. There's a few ways to find manufacturers. One way, like I did, was using just Google, but also for other stuff, you can use Alibaba, which gives you access to manufacturers across Asia, India, Europe, I think everywhere. You can also use thomasnet.com to find manufacturers that are exclusively made in the US. I had already spent over $15,000 to get this product up and running, and that did make me a little bit nervous, but I was putting my faith in this YouTuber Travis, who said that Amazon makes up about 50% of online sales. I also heard that 56% of customers start their searches on Amazon. I was already all in. I knew all of these facts, and I felt like this opportunity might be too good to miss. So we kept going. Travis has so many great videos and resources, and a lot of them are free, even his 10-hour FBA course, which is also linked below. And these are just awesome resources to get you started so you feel really confident going into your first product. Feeling confident in all of this and having someone that was able to give me so many free resources is part of why I wanted to come on this channel, just to say thank you and show a real life example. It worked. All right, let's finish up saying my costs and then tell you guys about my first few months of sales. Shipping of my product cost about $500, and we did that by land because my product was made in the US. But if your product comes from overseas, you can do it on boats, and that is a less expensive option. It's still pricey, but a less expensive option, and it takes a long time. Or you can do it through air, and that gets pretty expensive pretty quickly. The next thing I did was make a barcode that we put on the bottom of my product, and then sometimes we also put it on a sticker on the bottom. That is called a UPC, or a Universal Product Code, and I got that from GS1, which is just gs1.com, for $20. I think you can also buy a barcode already made for $30. Then it cost me $39.99 to set up my Amazon seller account. That account fee is what you pay to set up your actual account. And then you can list your products on Amazon and have access to people searching for you and your product coming up. That also gives you access to Amazon Seller Central, where you can create and download reports for your expenses, your sales, and all of the data from Amazon. If you don't want to pay that $39.99, which then it becomes monthly, there are two ways that you can set up your account. The first way, where you pay the fee, is becoming a professional seller, and that gives you access to the Amazon FBA, and that's $39.99 a month. You get the Prime badge and all of that. The other way is becoming an individual seller, and that account is actually free to use, but you pay 99 cents per item that you sell. And I believe that's on top of the other fees, because with everything, you're always getting fees. If you think you're going to be selling more than 40 units of your product a month, then it makes sense to go with a $39.99 one, because like if I sold 200 tins in a month, that would be an extra $200. All right, we're getting ready. I'm gonna share how much I made in my first few couple months in sales on Amazon. So far, I think I'd spent over $17,000 just getting my product ready. I was getting ready to launch, and I was excited and nervous and all of the things. I'd also heard that I believe Amazon was like a $1.8 trillion company, and there's something like 310 million users a month. So I knew that there was a really big opportunity for my product to be seen by people. In the end, it took me about 1.5 years to launch my product, and we finally were launched in 2022, but it's because we were in the middle of the pandemic when I started, so there was some really huge delays for getting everything ready. So I made $66 selling in my first month on Amazon. That was super exciting, but it's important to remember that that is the total amount that I sold, not my profit. So my profit is the $66 minus the price of my actual supplement. And then there's also a 15% Amazon fee, which you have to pay for the opportunity to sell on Amazon. That was about $9.90 together for the two. And then the next fee was about $7 or $8 for the two, and that is the pick and pack fee. So that pays for the Amazon employee to actually put your product in a packaging, pays for the packaging, and then pays for your product to be delivered to the door of the next person. So overall, after Amazon fees, I made about $48. Just the fact that 2 people bought my product, I was so excited for, because I had just spent 1.5 years creating this amazing product, and I had no idea really if it was going to work. Although I did make a big mistake with advertising, which did end up costing me about $10,000, but I'll get back to that in a minute. The second month selling on Amazon, we made over $267, or exactly 267, I guess, selling the product minus, again, the cost of the actual product. But that's what I had like given to me in my account from Amazon. I was really excited because my business was growing. It wasn't huge money yet. I couldn't, retire already. For my first 2 months in sales, to see 2 go to 11. Also, going from 2 to 11 showed that people were starting to search for my product, and it was starting to come up on the website, and that people would click it, like what they saw, and then get it. And when I first searched for travel supplement, it didn't really have any hits. So I was kind of just hoping that people would start searching for it or see it and think, oh, maybe I need that. I also at that time hired someone to optimize my listing and create targeted keywords. And I think that was also helping people start finding it organically. But in month 3, I did make a big mistake, and that ended up costing me thousands. So let's get to it. In month 3, I sold 4 units for $132, which unfortunately was definitely less than my 11 units the month before. From that $132, Amazon took about $19 for the referral fee and about $15 for the pick and pack fee. That left me with about $97 of profit minus the cost of the product. That was a little bit shocking. I wasn't really stoked that we went down, but I also just wasn't really sure yet what to do. I hadn't started investing in advertising yet. I was just still figuring it all out. So in month 4, I went back to selling only 2 units of the product, which was another $66 or about $49 minus the price of the product that I profited. But then for the next 5 or 6 months, from month 5 to month 10, I kind of stopped doing Amazon. And that's why it was such a big mistake that I made, was I started to turn towards my website, and I put a lot of energy and resources into trying to get sales on my website. And I honestly just felt like I was throwing darts at a board and all of them were falling off. So then in month 10, I decided to go back into Amazon, put all my eggs in that basket, and just do anything that I could to try to make this work. That was December of 2022. And at that point, I decided to teach myself PPC advertising and run a bunch of ads. And it worked. I started like the last week or 2 of December, teaching myself, always editing the ads, doing all of this, trying to promote these keywords, trying to make travel supplements, something that people could search for. And in that month, we sold 9 tins to 8 customers, which was very exciting. After all of my expenses and PPC advertisement costs and everything, I ended up negative about $870 that month, but I sold 9 tins. And I was pretty excited, and I saw that I was starting to learn how to work the ads. In January, I ended up selling 44 units, which I was so excited for. I ended up spending $2,500 that month on ads and the price of all of the fees. So I profited negative $1,900 that month minus the price of the actual product. I lost more money than the month before, but I sold 44 tins. So I knew 44 people thought my product was cool and wanted to use it. And that was cool. So in just 2 months of marketing my product, I had spent about $3,500 on PPC and lost $2,700 or something. Even though I did lose a lot of money, I was starting to get a lot more attention for my product, and I really could feel that I was onto something. And I knew that if I kept going, all of the money that I'd lost would be made up and more. When I say Amazon advertising or PPC, PPC means pay per click. Basically, you pay to have your listing at the top of the search results, and whenever anyone clicks your listing, you get charged a small fee. YouTube and Amazon FBA coach Travis has a lot of useful tips where you can harness PPC and use it to your advantage. He also shares how you can build your own successful Amazon business in his FBA course, which is linked down below. So while all of my sales are ramping up and I was so excited, I had sent more product to the Amazon warehouses and they weren't being checked in. So I was sitting there waiting, and I didn't want to run out of product because it can make your listing ranking go down. So I was like, I need to slow down my sales basically. But I had created such good ads. So what I did was I raised the price of my product. My product was at $29.99 at this point, and I raised it to $34.99, and sales increased. So then I raised my price again to $39.99, and sales increased again. That was super cool, but I actually needed my sales to slow down. So then I raised the price again to $44.99, and it slowed down, but only to the amount that it was at $35.99. So I was like, okay, let's do it one more time. And I raised the price to $49.99, and sales ended up being about the same as they were at $29.99, which is also really cool information because I found out my best price was $39.99, which I realize now also is a great price for me because at $29.99, it wasn't really making much profit after all the fees and everything. So at $39.99, everyone was happy. The next month was month 12, our 1 year, and it was the first time we were not negative. It was the first time we were in the green, and I was so excited, and I could see that this was upward trajectory. In that 12th month, we sold 91 products for a total of something like $2,700, and after all of the expenses, all of the PPC, we profited $1,200, which was so cool, and on our way back from making up for the months that we had been in the negative. Also, profiting $1,000, that's actually a decent amount of money. It wasn't like the $40 that really was all going to expenses and stuff anyways. It was actually $1,000 that I could see helping fund my life. Month 13 was a little upsetting because we sold about $5,200, but we only profited about $300. Month 14, we sold about $8,400, and we profited about $2,000. So at least then we were starting to be up on the right trajectory of making money. In month 15, we made $7,800 and I profited about $2,300. In month 16, we had our biggest month yet, which was super exciting. We finally broke 10K in a month and we sold about $13,500 that month. After taking out expenses, we ended up with about $5,300. My business was finally skyrocketing and I really felt like we were on a winning trajectory. On month 19, we had our biggest month yet. We sold between $17,000 and $18,000. We sold 443 units and we profited about $7,500. That was so exciting. By month 22, unfortunately, our revenue didn't stay that high and we were back down to about $4,500 in revenue, which meant only a few $100s of profit. That was pretty devastating to me, but over the next 6 months, our sales started to grow again, and I can explain why in a minute. In month 23, we sold about $5,400 of product, and we made about $1,000 in profit. Then for the next 5 months, I was kind of fluctuating between $2,000 and $5,000 in profit. Months before, when I had started getting enough revenue that I could afford to pay someone, I actually handed off my PPC to a professional who I felt could just take the ads further and also free up some time for me. I also kind of felt like I had hit my cap of PPC knowledge and it would have taken me a lot of time and energy investment to get to that next level, and I would have just rather have someone else do it. After 2 years of selling on Amazon, I had sold about $173,000 of my product, which just in and of itself alone is like $173,000 of product that I made up. That's so cool. So that was really exciting. After all expenses and fees and this and that, I think I profited about $55,000. This felt so cool because when I created this, I really wanted it to eventually become a passive income, and that really is what it was becoming, especially when I outsourced my advertising. But I could have earned so much more if I avoided these 3 mistakes, so pay attention. My first biggest mistake was negative self-talk. I was so mean to myself in the beginning of running this, always stressing myself out, making myself worried for no reason. And I actually, about 9 months in, right before we started growing, I actually quit for about 12 hours. And then in that, I started crying and I realized how mean I was being to myself. And that's kind of when I had this realization that, okay, what if I just try one more time? And I started being nice to myself and I started committing to working and not distracting myself. And that was that December when we hit 9 tins, then 44, then 100 something, and everything started to do well. If I didn't do that, we would have never hit the $173,000 we've done so far. I would have never hit the 40 grand in revenue. Another big mistake I made was not utilizing PPC earlier. And I think that mistake might have cost me something like $50,000. If I'd started using it earlier, I could have made at least $50,000 more in sales. And something my dad said to me was, you have to spend money to make money. And at the beginning, I was so afraid because I'd already spent so much money on the product and everything that I didn't want to spend money. But as soon as I did start spending more money, that's when I made exponentially more money. The third mistake and the biggest mistake was not starting my business today. I took a long time to get my business started and I don't regret it, and it was COVID, so there was months and months of shipping delays. That mistake could have cost me, I don't know, $100,000, maybe more. If I started a year earlier, who knows? I am so proud of myself for my company and for Copilot and for making such an awesome product that I know helps people. And honestly, you can do it too. Just follow your intuition and don't give up. That's the biggest thing. When I finally gave up and then I was like, you know what, actually one more time, let's do this. That's when it became successful because I decided that I wasn't going to give up again. I know it can seem like a lot of pressure, like everything's weighing on this, but that's fine. So is a life of freedom. A life of freedom is weighing on it too. You've got it. If you're stuck and you don't know where to go, but you know you want to go somewhere, you can honestly get Travis's FBA course right now. It's linked below, the Passion Product Formula, and he can help you get started and just get your feet into it.